Good afternoon and welcome to episode 16 of Will You Review My CV? I'm your host, Alan Wozni, and today I'm highlighting two career advice submissions I made in May 2019. One is a marketing professional based out of Pune in India, and the second is a travel and tourism professional based out of Mumbai in India, but she had extensive experience in the past and near term recently working with major hotels in Australia. I'm going to jump right into the PowerPoint presentation that I made to outline the responses to the job search appeals that both of these individuals had made on LinkedIn back in May of 2019. So let's go here and share the screen. All right. And I want to jump right into this and let's play from the start. So episode 16, today is July 19th, 2021. And career advice number 121 was made to Pooja Ganga Gedakar. I really, if I'm badgering, I don't mean that. Pooja, sorry about that. And then career advice number 130 to Madihad Kahn, a hotel and tourism expert based in Australia at the time. So when I looked at her, I came across as a self-post, and I believe her self-post probably got my attention through one of my common connections. Particularly at this time, I was living. I was still living in Qatar, so a lot of the Middle East connections in the Indian subcontinent. So here's her post. Hello, I'm actively looking for a job opportunity in marketing or branding domain. I've completed the PGDM Media and Entertainment. I'm not sure what that is. Batch 2019 from Prin LN Wellington Institute. That's in Australia. So, or Mumbai. Sorry, I thought that was. I've done my summer internship in marketing with Viking Beverages. I can join as soon as possible if required. Current city, Mumbai, contact details, Pooja, attached to my resume. So she literally was giving everything. Pooja gave everything, and I'm on, hats off to Pooja because you're going to see some really creative stuff that she's done here. Work experience. So I wanted to get an idea, give with the lens I've looked at. This is I tend to look at what's my lens when I'm looking at the job profile, and I go right to their LinkedIn profile. So this is current. Back in May 2019, it would have looked a little different because this is up to date. So her work experience, she's now working as a social media executive with a company called Artifacts, and what she's done here is put a little LinkedIn help, or she's put an asterisk right in her profile, or when in connection with that, and saying LinkedIn helped me get this role. So that, I mean, I haven't seen that. This is the first time I've seen that. It's wonderful. Well done, Pooja, because that's just giving basically a shout out to what helped you get the role, and I like that. The other thing, she's so if you look back at her profile, she worked at various marketing intern and temporary roles from 2016 to 2020. So remember, this job search appeal was made very public back in May of 2019. So hats off, Pooja, for giving recognition to LinkedIn and how you got your role with Artifacts. So her education, and looking through, she's done some certificates on Google. Again, she's put that out there, digital marketing analytics. She's gone in my view, the extra mile to differentiate herself from other candidates. She's gone to a company, there's HubSpot. HubSpot is there for small businesses. So she's done some certificates on their HubSpot's website, social media, inbound marketing, all done in 2019. And she graduated from the postgraduate media and entertainment faculty at a local university. And then she's also got, if you go back even further, 2016, she does have a computer engineering degree. So Pooja does come with some understanding of the tech that I'll focus on, and I've often focused on. And again, she's got some Google certifications. So putting these things together, it makes, I think it differentiates her candidacy. What did I say? Back in May 2019, I very consistent. I tend to do this. I look first. AngelList is one of my go-to companies or places for jobs. I believe it's critical for job seekers to look there. So at the time, India had 7,000 open roles, greater than 7,000 open roles across India on Angel List. Today, that's much lower. And there's reasons why. If you look at Mumbai, at that time, back in May 2019, 1,242 companies, or there's 1,242 open roles. Today, it's 229. Bengaluru, or formerly Bangalore, 796 compared to today. Just this yesterday, I looked at this. There's only 179. Not surprising because the pandemic has hit the second or third wave in India. And I think a lot of companies probably pulled back some of their activity because these are all startups. Angel typically focuses on or lists startups that list their roles on there. So there's some pullback there. I'm not here to make judge, and it's, I understand it. I was working with Moby Park out of Mumbai. He actually he moved to Bengaluru because it was very difficult to live in Mumbai. So you got to imagine these are cities of 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 million people. So they're massive cities. But anyway, I wanted to highlight why I always do this. I know I always do this. Angel List, I go back to the 2018 article that they posted. Bengaluru has the highest concentration of e-commerce startups in the world. 1 in 6 companies operating in this space. That was 2018. As you're going to see later on in this episode, the amount of innovation in India continues to flourish. Tech startups continue to flourish. So I'm going to highlight a few recent examples. Back in 2000, because she's a marketing person, most tech startups. Let's go back because in these startups on Angel List, the two things that when startups they need are marketing. They need tech people, and they need marketing. They need marketing support to help them scale. So when I look at the landscape of innovation in India, I gave her a snapshot of 30 plus companies that I saw back in 2019. That I could probably, I don't update that list anymore because there's just so many startups and tech companies in India. But any number of these companies could use someone with her digital marketing background, Agristar, farming and ag tech, Bijou's online education. I'm sure many people are familiar with Bijou's, cash free fintech, Dream 11 fantasy sports. Think of IPL. Think of the Indian Premiership League. It's the cricket. It's a massive league. So now they've caught on with the Americans with the hockey and NFL football and baseball and the fantasy. You pick your teams. It's been Dream 11. I think in my view is taken off because back then they were just a startup. But Flipkart, many people are very familiar with Flipkart, e-commerce shopping. Freshworks, they're $1 billion company, billion plus. Back then, 2019, they hit the unicorn status. And Freshworks, I mean, I love what the clean lines when you go to their website, but they just help. They're like the Shopify for India. They're helping companies with their websites and IT solutions. Misho, women's fashions, online commerce, e-commerce. Ola, ride sharing. I mean, that's taken off over the years. Oyu, accommodations, shared accommodations. Think Airbnb and hotels. M-Swipe, point of sale for retail devices, for e-commerce and so forth. Razorpay, fintech company. Back then they were just a startup. I don't know, they were raising money. Recently, I've seen them in the $1 billion or unicorn category. Shadowfax for logistics and delivery, which is huge in India. I mean, you've got a huge population. And so there's another company called Blackbuck, not on here, but again, logistics and supply chain, very important, particularly during the pandemic. Emeritus or Emeritus, higher education platform, still around. I went and looked at their website. They're still out there, and higher education is even more important these days than it was 2 years ago. Online education or ed tech has been very important, particularly during the pandemic. Instamojo, online stores, another one of those, think Shopify or Squarespace, where they help companies get set up. And then Swiggy. Swiggy is another $1 billion company. They were $1 billion back then. I think they were a unicorn back then. Grocery delivery, which was very important during the pandemic. What else did I say to Pooja? I go back to the Larare Hirpool often. There was an article written by Stephanie Manning Cohen, why VC firms are investing in the platform to compete. This is as a venture capital company grows and the amount of their portfolio mix increases, they hire for support over the platform to give their portfolio companies support, whether it's market, so non-tech, maybe tech, but most of it's been in legal, marketing, accounting, HR, kind of support over the platform to help all their portfolio companies. Let the portfolio companies focus on their business, and they help with the back office stuff. So I said the question I put to Pooja: what if you were one of the first to reach out to Indian VC firms to suggest that they hire you as head of marketing over the portfolio or over the platform? That it's not such a far-fetched idea. I don't know if anyone's doing it in India, but there's a lot of VC firms in India. I'm going to give a sample here, but there's a lot. So, and as I mentioned earlier with the angel list, same thing with the VCs or VC portfolio companies. When VCs inject funds into startups across the globe, not just India, one of the first things they put is, we are going to use the funds for marketing, hiring sales and marketing people, how to promote our product to get the scale and get more people enjoying our product or service. So, that it's just such an important area. I think marketing is such an important area to get familiar with the tech and how to help startups in that space. So, as I mentioned, I gave her a few samples of companies in this space. This is Mumbai. I focused on Mumbai because that's where she was based. I think she's now in Pune, but I focused on Mumbai. So some of the VCs in that Apex Partners, Arca Ventures, Artha Ventures, Avendus Capital, Bloom Ventures, Kiratai Ventures, Everstone Group, Matrix India Partners, which is a link to the Matrix partners in San Francisco, Meta Ventures, Omnivore. I think Omnivore is mostly in ag tech and so forth, but that could just be a broad sweep. Sealing Capital, Tata Capital. Of course, Tata is the big car manufacturer, but they're all over the venture landscape with their Tata Capital, and I've seen them come up in many funding announcements. Again, this is the snapshot. This is Mumbai only. I probably have a list of at least 100 venture capital firms across India, and there's a lot of them, including some of the Western firms that have like Matrix India that have set up in India. Outreach. So I suggested to Pooja, do an outreach. Go to angel list startups, e-commerce entities that I mentioned, the VCs, and then investee companies. There's a lot of potential for her as a job seeker, particularly with the marketing expertise, to get in and just reach out to those different companies. There's your real job search, not sending to recruiting sites, which you can still do, but in parallel, reach out to the startups across the landscape that, in whether it starts with Mumbai or you go across India. And because Pooja's in the VC or marketing space, there's a ton over the last couple of years, the last 3-4 years, I've been following I follow the Strictly VC, TechCrunch, VentureBeat newsletters, and the innovation comes from everywhere. So in her field, ManyChat, it's an automated two-way conversations on Facebook, Instagram. So where there are companies listed, that give you the automation helps. So if you've got a FB or Facebook site or an Instagram text for your clients, that allows for two-way conversations with your customers. GVox. I went and looked at this because I wanted to see what it was. Big data, AI, machine learning, or artificial intelligence for omnichannel. So omnichannel means just multiple platforms that you're going to have your platform on, your product on. So that gives the marketing. It helps call the data and helps across those different channels. Ideas United, content creation studio. I mean, just helping you with content as a company, helping create ideas, pushing out content on different platforms. You could use GVox and ManyChat, take the content from Ideas United and then use that on different platforms. Full story, the digital experience, just helping your companies get on a digital landscape. As we noticed during the COVID pandemic, that digital experience has been very important because a lot of companies pre-pandemic weren't necessarily didn't have a digital presence, weren't online. Probably Full Story could help with that. Video Amp, optimize cross-platform advertising. Again, probably using video cross-platform. You see a link here. You got omni-channel conversations across different platforms. they're recognized. Social media is everywhere. There's multiple platforms. So this is very important. Uberall. I like this one. It's not Uber, but it's Uber means location in German. I think it's something like that. It means location. So location marketing, using geolocators and helping market to your clients wherever they are. Branch, measure across devices, measure your effectiveness of different marketing platform or marketing tools that you're using across different devices. Upfluence, using local, finding local influencer marketers and being and partnering up with them. Phrasey, brand language, using the proper brand phrase for your brand. So they help with that. They help, I guess, I gotta imagine using natural language processing to help with that. Sales well, I love the name. Automated conversion of clients from sales funnel. Augury, data to predict, where your customers are buying, where their buying habits. I gotta imagine they're using machine learning AI algorithms to understand the data to tell a story. And then Perksy, predictive insights of where your customers are spending or will spend their money or have spent their money. So Pooja, what would I do today? I mean, first of all, your LinkedIn link to your new role, bravo. Because not a lot of people, I think you're the first I've seen. That's what I've seen. I'm not, I'm an expert, but certainly bravo to that. But what else would I tell you? I mean, you've taken some initiative, you've done some other roles, you've taken some certificates from Google and HubSpot. But I'd go to Gary V. Gary Vaynerchuk is this marketing for the now. He started it in COVID, so it's called Marketing for the Now, where he invites different CMOs or different thought leaders across the space. They've done 24 episodes. The recent one was an APAC one, Asia Pacific region, where they just brought in experts from the region to talk about what they're doing. But that's whether or not it's relevant to you in India, but I think it's just relevant for the ideas as a marketing person. Clubhouse. I've recommended many people start their own Clubhouse channel. I think Tanisha Cherry is a good example for you because she's also she was a guest on my podcast earlier this year. But Tanisha is also on Clubhouse, and she has a chat room called Influencer Power Hour, which is focused on solely on marketing and help and try to get sales. I would suggest that she subscribes to SaaS newsletters or software technology newsletters that publish local innovation relevant. So Inc. 42 is one, ET Tech is another. There probably are numerous in your area. I don't know them all. These are just the two that come up, and I kind of subscribe to them and then get ideas from time to time from India. What else would I look at? What I suggest? I would suggest, Pooja, look at some of the innovation in India. Continue. Oh, I wrote Gurgaon. So delivery is it's in Gurgaon, which is I think it's just north of Delhi. I'm not sure, but they recently raised this week, in fact, last week, in fact, they raised 100 million to delivery logistics and supply. I mentioned that earlier with Blackbuck and Shadowfax. Still, this is probably a lot of room for upside. Again, they probably need more marketing people. In Shorts out of Noida, I think it's also close to Delhi. I'm not sure. 60 million for news aggregator service. Again, just bringing news from different sources, and they raised a significant amount of money. They've gotten somebody's attention. Pratilipi, if I get that right, it's in Bengaluru. 48 million for self-publishing platforms to allow people to publish. Apparently, because of the pandemic and recently, more and more people are on that platform to publish, and they're moving into books and allowing individuals to publish books. Dealshare to Bengaluru, 144 million a couple weeks ago for the social commerce site, 144 million. Teachment out of Bengaluru, live tutoring and teaching, they raised 20 million just on 9th of July. Well, they announced it on 9th of July. Tutoring, education, online education is very important. Teachment seems to have gone a little bit differently, and it's live tutoring to give teachers tools so that they can actually monetize some of that and get fees paid. I think worth looking at if you're into education or ed tech. Okay. Let's move on now to career advice number 130. I know earlier I got a little bit confused. Um, Madiha has both been in Australia and in India, and Pooja was only in India. So career advice number 130, Madiha Naz Khan. She's the hotel and tourism, both in Australia and in India. So back on 13th of May, 2019, she had submitted a LinkedIn. So Madiha had put her query to the LinkedIn influencer on the page of LinkedIn influencer, Bridget Hyacinth. She wrote this. Hello, Bridget. How are you? Can you have a look at my profile and help me find something? I've been trying to apply to jobs since last year, October, and no luck. You'd be grateful if you could help me out. So I got to imagine, I mean, back then, Bridget Hyacinth had about 1.5 million followers on her site. Now she's up to well over 3 million. Bridget is in this space. She's written books. She has a YouTube channel, and I'm not here to compete with that. She adds a lot of value to a lot of people. And clearly, I wonder, how practical would it be for Bridget to take a look at her website or to her profile? But she may have. I don't know. Let's take a deep dive. So I look at her work experience, and she's got a variety of roles in the hospitality sector, including Emirates, the one and only. I lived in Dubai for 7 years. This is like a top tier hotel. You got like literally you come there and it's everything geared to the customer. The experience is amazing. It's a beautiful. They've got several locations in Dubai or in the Emirates, but I didn't know that they're in Australia as well. I guess not surprising because Emirates and Qantas Airways have a tie-up or link or a joint venture or whatever. So for a lot of business people travel between Dubai and Australia, so that's not uncommon. Or not, I'm not surprised that Melbourne has a one and only, and also Shangri-La Hotel. I think they're out of Singapore, massive chain. They're in Dubai. They got a couple of locations in Dubai. Again, the experience is amazing. So she's from 2013 to 2021, a variety of roles. So she's quite experienced. I think most of those roles are food and beverage, but also just that hotel, working around that environment. I think that gives you the experience. So she has a master degree in international tourism and hotel management. She got in 2018, and a diploma prior to that in international tourism and hotel management. So she's matched up, in my view, she's matched up the degree, the pedigree from the certificate to the actual practical working experience. So what did I say to Mediha back in May 2019? I referenced to Gary Vaynerchuk's his tour. He had done a keynote speech in Melbourne, so it was very geared to that market in Australia. And then also, I gave her some ideas later. You're going to see on entrepreneurship, and so I included a link to Gary V's podcast with Tim Ferriss. Most people would know. People may be familiar with Tim Ferriss. He's a well-known entrepreneur and very successful entrepreneur. AngelList. Went to Australia. The angel, like earlier with Pooja, I went to the one specific, very meta on Australia. 406 were across Australia. Melbourne 112, Sydney 74. Those were open roles on the site. Now, I went and looked this week, and the numbers are in half, roughly in half. As most people know, Australia is also going into a little bit of pandemic, second, third wave lockdown, particularly in Sydney. So the numbers in Australia have been scrunched down. Not surprising. Probably a lot of startups are just pulled back on some of their the roles that they had to open. They had posted on the angel list. That'll change in the future. Australia is very innovative, and as you see, and I'll show you from some examples of venture capital in Australia. Back then, what I did is I gave her some examples of venture capital firms. But my first start was with venture capital in Australia. Similar to Pooja, what about a head of travel administration support over the portfolio? So you got to imagine Australia is quite large, like Canada. Quite the major cities are quite far apart. So a head of travel and administration just for the VCs as they travel to their portfolio companies across Australia and across the globe. I don't think that's too far fetched to have a head of travel and administration. But obviously now with the pandemic, less travel, but still someone understanding, coordinating, maybe events management, events online, that kind of information, it's not too far fetched. So anyway, let's look further. So in addition to the VC firms, the portfolio role over the portfolio or role over the portfolio, I also gave her some examples of VC firms in Australia. So the first one, I wanted to get an idea of how relevant would it be for her as a leisure and tourism individual. So I did a little deep dive recently, on some of these companies. So Advent Partners, VC firm I think out of Melbourne. You look at their portfolio, they have two companies that are very relevant to her experience in food and beverage, Frosty Boy and Tribe Breweries. Again, she'd have to do her own due diligence, but perhaps to match up her experience with what's on those portfolio companies. Blackbird Ventures, they've got three companies I found which would be relevant to her food and beverage: Fable Foods, Sunfed Meats, and Vow. Vow does this cellular. It's kind of this new tech using taking in the test tube or whatever you can call it, the petri dish, and creating meat from cells. Then Square Peg Capital, they've got a company called Chope on their portfolio, restaurant reservation company, and then also Vow. They're also investor in Vow. And then I looked at the Salter Brothers. I was a little bit surprised. I didn't know this because I didn't look at detail, but if you look at their portfolio, it includes several hotels across Australia and the US, Holiday Inn, Crown Plaza, Voco, Hyatt, and others in Melbourne. This speaks right to her experience in the leisure and tourism and her hotel experience. So reach out to the Salter Brothers or the portfolio company and find out is there a need or gap within their portfolio of hotels. And then the final, not final, but one other area back in May is I focused on or gave her examples of restaurant, travel, and tourism SaaS, software as a service examples. So I kind of lumped it all in because there's a lot happening in her experience. She's food and beverage, but she's also, and so that kind of speaks to the restaurants, which are part of hotels, and also just that travel side of it. So 7 Shifts here in Canada, their labor platform for restaurants. They recently raised sometime in June, and that's helping the staffing for restaurants. Chow Bus in Chicago, online ordering for independent restaurants. I gotta imagine that during COVID, the Chow Bus must have been very, very important for particularly for local restaurants that weren't part of a national chain and didn't have systems in place. Chow Bus would have been very important for them online and takeout ordering. Simply Cook out of London, home recipe boxes. This is a trend I saw. A lot of companies pivoted during COVID because they couldn't get in-store experiences. A lot of companies were just packaging up, and these meal kits were delivering meal kits. Home recipe boxes was just acquired back in February of this year by Nestle. I gotta imagine that their demand was very high, and more people, and that got the attention of Nestle and said, "Hey, wait a minute, let's get involved in this." So, home cooked recipe boxes, meal kits and so forth, very important during COVID. Hungry out of Virginia, marketplace for chefs to get gigs, events, catering. Probably difficult during COVID for the gigs, but for catering, getting home cooked meals delivered. Q out of Maryland, pretty cool website for restaurants, point of sale platform. Probably now as COVID has opened up again, it's probably more important that having that particularly with takeout and having people, get the app, download the app and order your food before reduce the contact, in-store contact. CrowdRiff uses AI or artificial intelligence to help content for travel and tourism brands. Again, right to her experience. Just remember, this was back in May 2019. I was giving these examples pre-COVID. And then Guesty, it's a software for Airbnb type platforms. Again, this is kind of when I get to the business side or the consulting side, there's a lot of companies, a lot of small businesses that really need this kind of software now to get attention on social media. And maybe she could connect with Pooja on the marketing side. This is a really important platform, particularly for those independent people that don't necessarily have the reach. And then the last thing, as my suggested actions, learn the SaaS. I gave a few examples there. Learn the SaaS relevant to your business. In this case, hotel, leisure, and tourism, and F&B restaurants. Look at the demos. Grab the demo, the free demos. Subscribe to the company newsletters. Follow them on social media. Just create awareness of what they're doing, where they're working with, what companies they're working with. Do an outreach for your job search. Go to AngelList startups, go to the VC firms and their portfolio companies, as we mentioned, as I mentioned, for example, the brothers, Salter Brothers in Australia, and then the VC portfolio companies, look at them as well, and the individual companies. Do the outreach as a consultant. One of my ideas was, what if she was the key representative for one of those SaaS travel and from one of those restaurant SaaS or travel SaaS, become the key representative to the different portfolio companies or other companies out there. And so imagine if she was selected as their official representative. I mean, I don't know where that can go. I'm not here to say that this is going to guarantee you a job, but it's something she could do in parallel to her job search. Madiha Nazkhan, what would I do if I got to add to what I've already given you? The information, like I look, things change as you've seen during COVID. Airbnb, COVID, they crashed, and everybody thought that was a death of Airbnb, and then they recovered. In the middle of the pandemic, they went and did their IPO, and why? One of the main successful reasons is they have thousands of hosts that are entrepreneurs globally. And that platform, they bound it together. I think Airbnb did one thing they did was they gave a lot of money refunds to their Airbnb hosts across the globe. They give a lot of money to them because people canceled. As soon as the pandemic hit, a lot of the Airbnb bookings were canceled. But that initiative strengthened the hosts, I guess the individual hosts, the thousands of hosts. Think of it, they're individual entrepreneurs globally. So they managed to recover and innovate for those staycations, local, domestic travel. And so every domestic or Airbnb company, in any region across the globe, cities, countries, states, whatever, they banded together, and that allowed them to make their very successful IPO back in December of 2020. Super Airbnb, there's a French host, Julien and Sophie Romain. Julien wrote a book called Super Airbnb. The book is on audio on the available on the Amazon or Audible website, and it's pretty insightful. He basically invested in two apartments, and he gave really practical advice that could be beneficial to anybody who are hosting, two or three, kind of small, like owner managed businesses on Airbnb, not a massive portfolio, but two or three very practical advice. One thing I'd say is probably find those single owner hotels across the community, like Super Airbnb in Paris. Take some of the advice that Julien has given and help them manage their hotels, create a community in your local community and bound them together and bring them together with ideas instead of being independently, trying to do things. Try to get a community of like-minded people to do things together. Those single owner hotels in whatever city you're in, and just, try to bound them together. Find something common, unique. Instead of being competitors, why not try to find something to do together? One thing I'd also suggest, and again, this takes a little bit of vision, but look to hotel owner or property owners to repurpose some of their property, temporary for vaccinations, maybe a homeless shelter, local merchants to come and sell their wares if they don't no longer have a retail site that people can go to. Get local musicians, get local artists to come to those, the space that's just real estate space that's just kind of sitting empty. Gary Vee recently, as I mentioned earlier with Pooja, I would say to her, Mariha, listen to this one. It's the APAC Marketing for the Now, and there's one of them. One of them is a hotel leisure and tourism head of Singapore, and she's talking about the region, not just Singapore, but the region and how people, what they've done to recover, some initiatives and some ideas. And then Clubhouse, as I said earlier for Pooja, create a chat room, invite guests, invite people to chat about their issues, like the Gary Vee scenario. The GM invite the general manager from your previous hotel experience, invite the COO, the chief operating officer, invite the rooms expert, invite the F&B people to talk about issues. What have they done because of the pandemic? What have they done after the pandemic to remain afloat and ideas to attract customers? Get them to chat about it. People love to chat about these things. And then the another part is the going back to the SaaS samples. Pooja, you're in Mariha, sorry. This is the hospitality and restaurant innovation. Look for new SaaS. Look again, continuously refreshing your knowledge and experience. I did some research. 86 repairs out of Chicago. They raised 5.3 million for automated support to restaurant repair maintenance processes. So it's just looking at using artificial intelligence to help automate some of the processes and look into the downtime in your companies. That was in July 14th. They raised. Looking at the restaurant, the hotel, looking at the processes in there and helping to make it more efficient. Reduce the downtime, I guess, if you want. The less time your restaurant is down, the better. InstaWork out of San Francisco. They raised 60 million for on-demand staff for hospitality gig workers. Pretty important, particularly getting people employed, finding work in the gig economy. That was just in July 2021. Botrista out of San Francisco, 10 million for robot barista tech. Sounds pretty cool. Helping to make drinks in a matter of seconds. Really cool drinks, I guess. Local Kitchen, San Francisco, 25 million for a mix of local restaurant brands under one kitchen for takeout and delivery. Again, people have lost their restaurants, retail storefronts. This is kind of giving them a place to set up quickly with low capital cost. This could work in India. This could work in Australia. So that was just recently, June 29th. And then the last couple of examples, NCO out of Texas, funding for in-room tech solution for hospitality, senior living, healthcare sectors, just making that experience, the in-room experience better. They raised, they didn't disclose the amount how they raised, but it just was back in June 23rd of this year. And then Flipdish out of Ireland, 40 million euros for an online ordering and loyalty platform for takeout spots and restaurants. Again, the pandemic has highlighted the importance of this space, and not surprising they raised just in February of this year. So I'm going to end the screen sharing here. And I really want to conclude. I think there's a lot of takeaways that can come from this. And, that as we've seen from the pandemic, virtually all businesses across the globe turn to technology to help navigate their businesses. Pooja, digital marketing has become very prevalent, very important. Your experience and knowledge and how to navigate that for small businesses who don't have that digital presence or that online marketing, that could be very beneficial. And although the travel and tourism sector suffered tremendously during the pandemic, innovation in local markets helped many to successfully transition and weather the storm. StayCations may actually just be the norm for the years to come. Job search is difficult, even at the best of times. And with continued innovation in technology, it's going to become even more difficult. In my view, job seekers should embrace the technology that is available and relevant to their sector and or their job function. Don't ignore it. I mean, you can't, I don't believe you can afford to ignore the technology that's out there today. Imagine how interesting your job interviews will be, or the chat that you can have with the interviewer or the HR manager. If you have a great detail about the innovation relevant to that sector or the company, even the company, maybe not specific to the company, but the relevant to their business. Imagine that the discussions you can have. Imagine if you don't. Next time when I'm asked, will you review my CV? I will immediately ask, what have you done to become aware of the technology and innovation that's available with your job function or your sector? Have a great day and stay safe.